6:32. First item is roll call.
All right, Director Andrews.
Present.
Director Bro.
Present.
Director Chambers.
Present.
Director Cohen. Director Duncan.
Present.
Director Hamilton.
Present.
Director Hardy.
Present remotely.
Present by telephone there. Director Jordan. Director Kiesel. Director Lincoln.
Present.
Director Manalo. Mellinger. Mickelson. Montano.
Here.
Director Nash.
Here.
Director Piccolotti. Director Pierce.
Here.
Director Ragsdale.
Here.
Director Schneider.
Here.
Director Showalter.
Here by Zoom
Here
in
by
Salt Lake
Zoom.
City.
Thank you. Director Stevenson.
Present.
Director Stone.
Here.
Director Vella.
Here.
Director Weed. And Director Zieglerman is absent. We have quorum.
Okay. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. If you could stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next item is comments from the chair. Good evening and welcome to our November meeting of the BAWSCA Board of Directors. We do have members participating remotely tonight, so please use your microphones well, me included. I'm trying to be better. And all votes will have to be conducted by roll call. I will also be pulling consent calendar item 6G regarding Tier 2 allocations and handling it separately. We are so close. I think that all board members should be given an update and or an opportunity for discussion on the need for what I hope is the last and hopefully unnecessary extension of the current Tier 2 allocations. Another item of interest in the consent is our audit report from last year, which shows we underspent last year's budget by $500,000. These funds would normally go into reserves, although when we established this year's budget, we showed an interest in perhaps using some of these funds to pay down our pension OPEB liabilities. BPC will be looking into our options in December, with the full board potentially taking action at our January meeting. Tonight, we will also have some discussion on water affordability as part of our Strategy 2050 discussions, which I am sure you will find interesting. You will also receive an update in both open and closed sessions on the Tuolumne Healthy Rivers and Landscapes, which is also known as TRVA, where, among other things, the State Board held a hearing to receive public comment on the draft scientific basis report. We will also have a closed session presenting our CEO with his evaluation, which we discussed last meeting. Welcome back, Tom. I'm glad your medical procedure was a success. Again, thank you for being here, either in person or electronically. Hopefully you've read the excellent packet and prepared by staff so we can have some good discussions. Now on with the show. Director Hardy, please give the PPC report.
Thank you. I know I will just show up as a voice from the sky, so if you look up, I'll understand. October 8th, want to make certain I was not muted. October 8th, the BPC met, and we had a very good discussion. We did make two strong recommendations about the adoption for the resolution for the extension, hoping it isn't needed, and the annual review of the investment policy, and the recommendation was to continue onward. We also, I hope you had a chance to read it, there were quite a few pages about a very robust conversation we had over what affordability means. And it went on about 5 to 6 pages in the notes. And staff did a really good job of taking down everyone's comments. So thank you.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any comments from board members? I do have one speaker card on this item. Dave Warner, would you like to give us your comments?
Quickly, I'm Dave Warner. I would first again commend Director Hardy for she just leads the Board Policy Committee with a wonderful round-robin approach. So you get this terrific dialogue, which did generate several pages of notes, but it's great that we understand so much about how we feel about this issue. So that's my main comment. The other comment I would just make is I hope you've seen my letter that was in the correspondence package, which was just giving another different perspective on affordability. And if you haven't seen it, I'd ask you to take a look at it. Thank you.
And also as a comment for our remote participants, if there's any members of the public at your location, please let me know, because otherwise I will, otherwise I'm not going to be asking for public comment from the remote locations.
I have no one with me.
Okay, just want to make sure.
There is no one in my location but myself either.
Okay, next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. And I do have a speaker card from, Angela, excuse me.
Is it okay to ask questions regarding what we saw in the first 5 pages?
For BPC?
Yeah, BPC, now? Is it too late?
Yep.
I just had a
No,
question.
go ahead.
For the investment policy, did we look at CAMP versus LAIF? I can't think of what the CAMP acronym is right off the bat, but I heard it was a higher return for CAMP than LAIF.
I'm looking for Christina. Do you have a microphone? Or I don't know that we've looked at that recently, but I'll defer to our finance manager.
It might be on.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. We did. If you are referring to a camp as a specific program as part of LAIF, no, we didn't. I don't think we specifically consider that program, but we definitely compared all our investments against the general investment earnings in the LAIF program.
Okay. If it's not too late, just take a look at it, because I think it's a slightly higher return and we can compare. I just did it at another public agency.
We can look at it and get
Okay.
back to you.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Angela? Okay, next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. I have one speaker card from Dave Warner. This is.
Okay, thank you, and I apologize to those of you remote. I think Deb is going to be passing a quick handout out, and all of you, your hearts are in the right place, but this handout is basically the term demand hardening. And this starts out with the first slide says demand hardening is real, and this was from 2007 when our demand on the regional water system was 257 MGD. Of course, this last year it was down to 185. So clearly, demand hardening wasn't real back then. The second point is on the second slide. There was a study done in 2015 that looked at, it was supported by a number of water agencies, that looked at the concept of demand hardening. And it had some of the most arcane language I've ever seen, but it basically said they found no evidence of demand hardening. What they did find is they thought that enforcement activities very much improved drought response. And then the third thing is the last, when you look at the SFPUC report, they always present this slide that you can see on the back, and I apologize for those of you who don't have it yet, but the third slide shows the weekly deliveries. And when you look at the weekly deliveries, you can see in the wintertime, the deliveries are relatively low, and in the summertime, they're relatively high. And the argument is, well, they're high because of outdoor water use. So you'd say there's an opportunity to reduce demand through reducing outdoor water use. And so there's that. But more interesting is this last, on the bottom of the second page, where it shows, okay, if we look back at how demand changed from 2021 to 2023 during the wintertime versus the summertime, we can see that demand decline, and these are just sort of full year pictures, so they're not going to be precise for, we saw demand actually decline greater than that over certain time periods. But over those periods, we saw indoor demand drop 12%, and we saw outdoor demand drop 12%. So if there was demand hardening, that would be, you wouldn't expect to see the indoor demand dropping so much. So I guess what I'm concluding is I'd really ask you guys not to use the term demand hardening. To me, it's a very misleading, unsubstantiated remark, and that's my public comment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda is SFPUC report. And I'm not sure if Mr. Ritchie or Allison Castema is going to be giving it.
Thank you. Good evening. Move myself through this. Good evening. Allison Castema with the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. I'm the BAWSCA liaison for the water enterprise. I've met many of you before. So we're presenting information on the water supply conditions here through basically midnight through the weekend. So through November 17th. As you know, we're 2 months into our new water year, October and November, partially through November. Our supply conditions look very good. We're actually above average at Hetchy, or normal percentage is about 71%. We're actually at about 75%. And the system itself, total system storage, 88% against a normal of 78%. And again, much of that is typically rule curves, keeping the reservoirs with space in them for precipitation events. Very typically, we have them a little bit further down. And in particular, of course, we see some usage on those reservoirs through the drier months of the year until we get into the wetter portions. So this looks very similar to across the state. Many of the reservoirs across the state are also still looking in good condition at or above their historic average for this time of year. The drought monitor, which again is mostly an agricultural indicator, we've seen some movement of this as we've seen the rains in the last few weeks and last month come through. So we've seen this lessen, and again, mostly we're seeing this to the south. At Hetchy, we've seen an uptick here in October and in November. You're going to see the totals here very shortly, but we're seeing above the median line for our 91 to 2020 median for conditions. So not as wet as we've seen, certainly not as dry as we've seen. So upcountry, what we're looking at is 6.7 inches cumulative. That's against a total of almost 31 inches, but you can see the blue bars were above average or above the median for those 2 months that we've already been in for this water year. So conditions are good upcountry. They are similarly appearing above median here in the Bay Area, so above the median for both October and November. Snowpack, we're starting to see a little, although the rain we've seen in the last, or the events we've seen in the last couple of weeks have been a bit warmer, not as much landing solely as snow. And then the deliveries, as mentioned, we do see they've come off their summer peak. They're backing down to the lower portions of the year. Weather very much affects this, right? So if we have drier periods or wetter periods, you see a reduction because people don't need to actually draw on the system to do whatever irrigation or other needs. So we're at about 182. And I believe that is it. And I would just like to say, you know, we wanted to appreciate and acknowledge that we saw great representation from the region, from BAWSCA and other member agencies when the state board was considering the Healthy Rivers and Landscapes, the scientific basis report on November 5th. So we are here to deliver water to your agencies. it's important that you're part of that conversation. So we very much appreciate those who were able to make it and the fact that the region was represented. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, are there any questions from board members? If so, please elevate your, okay, Director Snyder.
Thank you. Thank you. This is going to sound a little bit weird. Over the weekend, I can't remember which day, they posted the rainfall with the storms that were predicted to hit Marin County and North Moore. But SFO had 1.31 inches, which was almost a half an inch more than anywhere else in the Bay Area. Given that there's San Andreas Reservoir, do you have a water gauge up there? Oh, you do. And is there, the reason I'm bringing that up is as we look at alternative water supplies, and because my community is completely locked in by SFO, the water that falls at SFO and the water that falls up there, we're somewhere in between. And I'd love to have that data for planning purposes. I don't know if any of the other cities are near other water gauges. If we're looking at stormwater retention, that might be a useful number to get to look at in terms of estimating what should we do or what could we do.
Let me just respond in a way. Whether we have a publicly accessible USGS gauge, I'd have to check, but we certainly have predictions on inflow into our reservoirs. So we are watching hydrology, we're watching forecasts, and we have models that basically demonstrate where we think things will land. Certainly on the reservoirs, we also have elevations on the reservoirs. We know where things are at. On the Lower Crystal Springs Dam in particular, we do have a gauge both at the dam crest and downstream of the dam. Those I know are accessible. San Andreas, I'd have to check. But again, much of the work that we do is to look at what is predicted to come in, where our reservoir is at, what our operations would be, drawing off the reservoir so that we're clear on where we're going to predictably land in rain events with reservoir levels.
Appreciate that. Again, a lot of us are also thinking about stormwater and flooding on that. To BAWSCA staff, One Shoreline is putting meters up at certain creeks, especially those of us in areas that flood a lot. And together that might give us an additional way to look at our water supply. Not your water, what you're supplying, but other alternative water supplies. It just sometimes we've really siloed ourselves and we've got data coming in from different places. I was awake that night and around midnight we had a storm that really came down and I was questioning whether it was a microburst within an atmospheric river because it came down so you couldn't see across the street. And I've seen that in the tropics, but I've not seen it here other than the year that we lost 2 people drowning in Millbrae. So kind of cool on that, but thank you.
Okay.
Not cool that people drowned, cool at looking at the data and trying to figure out what these microbursts can actually do. Sorry, anybody in the public, not cool.
Okay, one more for Director Showalter.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, mine's a little more kind of generic. I know that the rainfall around the Bay Area varies tremendously. So I was really interested to see those average numbers, and I kind of wondered, do you have a methodology that you can share with me, maybe offline, about how you do that? Because obviously, or do you just have one gauge that you've decided is the median? I mean, how do you do that?
So I do think this would be a follow-up to give some information to you, but the slide that we use is a 7-station Bay Area Precipitation Index. So that, to me, not being the one producing the slides or gathering the data, I do believe we gather that from a variety of those 7 different stations. They are likely to encompass our Sunol side as well as our peninsula side and in the city. So we certainly can follow up with some information on how that those 7 stations and that precipitation information is gathered.
That'd be very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from board members? Any questions from public or comments from the public? Okay. Next item is consent calendar. I guess what I'm looking for is a motion to approve other than item 6G. 6G we're going to do separate. Okay, Director Snyder.
question. And again, I do want to compliment staff for really capturing our discussion on affordability. But when I read Director Vella's comments, I was a little confused with the one word "because" in there, and I've got it. I'm not sure, that's not what I remember on that. Sorry.
I don't remember either.
Well, it's on the bottom of page 9 in the packet, and it says that water rates went up from $70 a month in 13-14 to $120 in fiscal year 23-24 because the median household income went up. And that's the one thing that I'm not sure that's right. I think that's probably, the word "because" is not the right word. I hate to be so nitpicky, but that's a critical, you made a critical point.
Did I say that?
I don't think you did.
It could be a,
And I should have gotten to staff beforehand, my apologies.
Okay, just a second, Allison?
I believe that edit is on the notes from the BPC meeting, which you are not voting on right now, but in December, for that vote, we can have Lourdes Enriquez just clarify that and make sure it's reflective. So it's good input, and we can adjust those notes accordingly.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Burrow?
I'll give you a motion to approve consent calendar items A through F and H.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second to that motion? Director
Second.
Pierce?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on that motion? Okay, any comments from board members? No comments from board members. Any comments from the public? Okay, have a roll call vote?
Director Andrews,
President, yes.
Director Bro,
Yes, for Brisbane and GVMID.
Director Chambers,
Aye.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Director Hamilton,
Yes.
Director Hardy,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Kiesel, Director Lincoln,
Yes.
Director Mellinger,
Yes.
Director Mickelson, Director Montano,
Yes.
Director Nash,
Yes.
Director Piccolotti, Director Pierce,
Yes.
Director Ragsdale,
Yes.
Director Schneider,
Aye.
Director Showalter,
Yes.
Director Stevenson,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
And Director Weed isn't here yet, so everyone, yes.
Okay. Thank you. Passes, I assume.
Yes.
For item 6G, please go to the next slide.
I'll take that.
Okay, our CEO will,
Oh,
okay,
you want to do it, Danielle?
Danielle,
If you're ready.
you're closer.
You're closer.
Good evening, Board of Directors. We have had 25 of the 26 agencies adopt the updated Tier 2 plan and WSA amendment. The last agency is scheduled to go on December 2nd. It has been BAWSCA's practice over the past couple years to always have a Tier 2 plan in place, and so staff recommends that the board extend the existing Tier 2 plan. The BPC recommended that the full board do that as well. When the updated Tier 2 plan is unanimously adopted, presumably on December 2nd, it will supersede the existing Tier 2 plan. And so the motion, or the recommendation, is that the board adopt Resolution 25-02, extending the term of the 2021 amended and restated Tier 2 plan through December 31st, 2026, or until all wholesale customers' governing bodies adopt an updated Tier 2 plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, any questions from the board? Director Bro?
Thank you, Chair. So I'm very much in favor of this action item. The only question I have is perhaps for the CEO, perhaps with assistance from legal counsel. It feels like in the resolves, there needs a timing sequence in there. You know, we talk about that if the wholesale customers unanimously adopt it, then the new DRIP goes into effect. Is that on the same date that the 26th member agency does it? Is it as soon as we receive it and transmit it to SFPUC? It just feels like it needs something in there, or maybe there's already something in the WSA that triggers that I'm not familiar with.
So I am going to lean on counsel. What I will say as a preamble is that the Tier 2 plan is the plan for the wholesale customers. So I don't believe that that is required to be sent to the SFPUC. But now I'm going to lean on council to tell me if I'm wrong.
That is correct. So, Director Bro, are you, I mean, the way I read it, I believe that once the board adopts this plan, it will be the new plan until hopefully December 2nd, when the alternative plan has been adopted.
So just so I'm clear, so you're saying if the 26-member agency adopts it on the December 2nd, then that's when it's effective?
That will supersede this. This
Okay.
will be effective tonight.
Right.
Right.
But then the new Tier 2 goes in on that? That's
Yes.
your understanding? Okay, if that's your understanding, I'm happy with it. Thank you.
Yes.
Because I think San Francisco asked you to calculate tier 2 levels when they need them.
Correct.
And that's up, you being BAWSCA.
It's a moving target.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Okay.
a framework that exists, that we will send them the framework, but in the end, what they really want is the numbers that come out of the framework, and those, Danielle can explain more, are just
Okay.
dependent on year-to-year information.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Okay, Director Nash.
So I was curious whether this was a scheduling issue or an issue with something within the agreement, if you can actually state that.
My understanding is it's been a scheduling issue. I don't know if Director Andrews wants to address it.
Yes, Angela Andrews, City of Hayward, it's us. We're waiting on our council to approve it. It did go to Infrastructure Committee, but majority vote. But it still needs to go to the full council, and it's due to our staffing needs to, our staff needs to put it on the board agenda. We did that. It's coming.
Thanks.
Okay, any other questions from board members? Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Seeing none, do I have a motion on this item? Director Pierce? Okay.
Since you all are waiting on our
We can argue
jurisdiction,
about it.
I'll move the
Okay.
item.
Director Andrews moves.
I'll second.
Director Mellinger seconds. Any further discussion before our vote? Okay, let's, roll call vote?
Director Andrews,
Yes.
Director Bro,
Yes, for Brisbane and GVMID.
Director Chambers,
Yes.
Director Duncan,
Yes.
Director Hamilton,
Yes.
Director Hardy,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Kiesel, Director Lincoln,
Yes.
Director Mellinger,
Yes.
Director Mickelson, Director Montano,
Yes.
Director Nash,
Yes.
Director Piccolotti, Director Pierce,
Yes.
Director Ragsdale,
Yes.
Director Schneider,
Yes.
Director Showalter,
Yes.
Director Stevenson,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Vella.
Yes.
And that's all, that's everybody's here. Passed.
Okay, thank you. The next item is reports and discussions. Long-term reliable water supply strategy 2050. Mrs. Ashuri?
All right. Good evening, Board of Directors. I'm looking forward to presenting to you the work that we've been doing the last few months regarding affordability. And as part of our ongoing Strategy 2050 work, this is work that we have been doing in the past year with EKI. We have Andre Lee from EKI with us tonight. We wanted to take a closer look at what water affordability looks like currently in the BAWSCA region. Specifically what it means for both the typical and low-income households in the BAWSCA region. Now, when we talk about affordability, we're referring to the general concept that water bills should not be a burden on households. So meaning people should be able to pay for those essential water services and still meet other basic needs, so food, housing, and healthcare. And I want to emphasize that the analysis I'm presenting today is really a key part of what we're doing with Strategy 2050, one of the objectives with it, which is to support the availability of affordable water supplies and demand management strategies to all of our customers. But before we can do that, we really need to assess what affordability looks like, specifically in the BAWSCA region. So our goal today is two things. One is to really share what the key findings are with you all tonight, and then provide some context on why this topic is so important for our upcoming Strategy 2050 decisions in the year to come. So to understand what affordability looks like in our region, our analysis focused on these 4 specific questions. The first being, how affordable is average water use for the typical household in the BAWSCA region? I'll go in more depth with what that means, but we were looking at the median household income. And then we also wanted to see how affordable is basic water service for low-income households. So this is at the 20th percentile. And when we say basic water services, this represents the water bill that's associated with a minimum monthly single-family water use. This is defined as 55 gallons per person per day. The third question that we wanted to answer is, how have water costs changed relative to income growth and other essential household expenses over the past decade? This is specific to the Bay Area. And then the fourth is, what is the extent of water affordability challenges in the BAWSCA region? And that was something that we had sent out a survey to all the water management representatives, the agencies, to fill out a specific survey, really looking into depth with the water affordability challenges within the BAWSCA region. So before I jump into the methodology and the results of the affordability assessment, I wanted to take a few seconds to explain what the assessment is and is not. This assessment, it's really a snapshot of current water affordabilities for the whole region. So we're not looking at specific individual BAWSCA agencies. And then we wanted to look at both levels, not just at the median level, but also at the low-income households. And that's specific to census blocks. We're not looking at individual household level affordability assessment. This is specific to census blocks that we were looking at. And then the context to inform future Strategy 2050 decisions. We wanted to see, this is a snapshot of what affordability looks like now. But the whole point is to see, as we're evaluating projects and actions in the future with Strategy 2050, how is that going to affect our affordability? And so in order for us to do that, we need a starting point. And this is the main goal of why we wanted to do this initial affordability assessment. And one thing that it, again, is not is, we wanted to stick with that water service. So this evaluation of affordability, that was looking at water services and no other expenses. Now, how is affordability assessed? The first thing we did is, and we did a lot of analysis and seeing how others have done it. This is on par with the EPA as well as the State Water Board. We've seen other agencies like Valley Water do the same type of methodology for their affordability assessment. But we wanted to initially calculate affordability indicator, which is the percentage of your income that's spent on your water bill. And most other assessments we've seen also do a similar thing. And what this means is looking at the cost of water over time and in comparison to the median household income. So for the typical customer, that's the average customer water bill, and we're looking at the median household income. So that MHI there, that's the first scenario. And the second is that low income customer. So we're looking at the basic needs water bill and that lowest quintile income. So specifically a snapshot of the 20th percentile of income. And again, with that basic needs water bill, that's for 55 gallons per person per day. And then we compared it to an affordability threshold. This is a target percentage of income for customer water bill. Now, there are multiple options for affordability thresholds. For this analysis, we use the State Water Board affordability thresholds. So if the water bill is less than 1.5% of a household's income, it would be considered affordable. If it's between 1.5 and 2.5, it's potentially unaffordable, and anything above 2.5 is likely unaffordable. So then we looked at each census block. So here it represents one census block. We have the maximum household income within that census block, as well as the minimum. And we have the median household income. So that's the 50th percentile within that census block, and then the 20th percentile. And as you know, like every census block is different. We have different populations, we have different water rates, we have different water use for that. So each of them generates a different median household income, as well as that 20th percentile. And we repeated this close to 2,000 times. So there's about 1,941 census block groups within the BAWSCA region. And then we aggregated that information into the results for the BAWSCA region level. And so we wanted to really make sure that we have the most granular information when we're trying to look at affordability within the BAWSCA region. Now we're going to look at some of the results for the typical income household. Again, this is at the 50th percentile. This represents all of the households within that 50th percentile. And we see that the average water bill is likely unaffordable for 1% of that typical income household. So again, 1% of the median household income households pay about more than that 2.5% on their average water bill. If we look at potentially unaffordable, we see that 3.4% of typical income households pay 1.5% or more of their income for the average bill. And then if we're looking at, diving really deeper into the low-income households, again, at that 20th percentile, we see that the average water bill is likely unaffordable for 8.7% of low-income households, which means that 8.7% of that 20th percentile income households, they pay more than 2.5% on their water bill. And then if we're looking at potentially unaffordable, which is, equal to or greater than 1.5% of their income, that is about 25.7% of the low-income households. Now we wanted to kind of look into affordability comparative analysis as well. That was kind of like the next step of our affordability analysis, was to really understand the relative cost of water compared to other essential needs over the past decade. And this work was actually completed by BAWSCA with the support of our summer intern, Christina Iyer. She was part of the Eastside College Prep at East Palo Alto. And our efforts was really to place water costs in context with broader economic trends that affect households in our region. So we did this by bringing in various data sets. We had the BAWSCA annual survey, and that provided us information on local water rate data. We had the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics Consumer Price Index, and that gave us information on the change of prices on food, housing, transportation, and healthcare. We had information from PG&E on electricity and gas. And then we had the Federal Reserve economic data, and that provided the median household incomes for San Mateo, Alameda, and Santa Clara County. So by looking at water alongside these other costs, we can really better understand whether households are feeling disproportionately a lot of pressure from their water bills compared to other everyday essentials. So this actually surprised me. The results for this study, I've made sure to run it several times and look at it several times because it was kind of went against what I thought the hypothesis would be. But we looked at what the average monthly household expenses were back in 2013 out to 2024. We looked at it for housing, transportation, food, healthcare, electricity bill, water bill, gas bill. And then the y-axis is the average monthly spending that we're going to look at. And the highest, what's being used the most and what you're spending the most money on is housing, not surprisingly. But the housing has gone up to about from $2,500 a month back in fiscal year 2013-14 to close to $3,600 a month in fiscal year 23-24. Then the next one is transportation. That goes to about $1,200 to $1,500. Then we look at food, which is the next category. And then food is going from about $800 to $1,200, followed by electricity bills, moving from about $96 a month to $191 a month, and those are average prices. We then have the average water bill, seen here back in fiscal year 13-14. That's about $67 a month. And then that has gone up to $91 per month in fiscal year 23-24. And that's for an average household. And then the smallest one is the gas bill. That's gone up from $36 a month to roughly 78% per month. And the surprising thing is this median household income up here, which surprised me, that the median household income has increased from $7,000 per month to close to $12,000 in fiscal year 23-24. That's about a 40% increase in that 10 years. And then for the expenditures, it's gone up about 30%. Now, there's obviously other things that people are paying for that's not shown in here. This is, just a few of the things that households are paying for. There are increases in prices of childcare, and this is not showing that. This is the information that we had. The main thing that we wanted to show is, water is a small portion, and when we're looking at affordability, we kind of really have to look at it holistically and see at what the whole cost of a household is. And water is a small part of that. And not to say that we shouldn't be looking at that. That is still a really big part of Strategy 2050. But we're looking at it in how a household is impacted by affordability. And of course, this is also not showing, for someone that's making minimum wage, you're also seeing a 30% increase in the cost of things over the years. So not to say that that's not impacting people in the future. Another thing that was really interesting when I was doing this analysis is, so this slide really helps illustrate an important distinction between water rates and water bills, which we used in this analysis, and how they've changed over time across the BAWSCA region. So the blue line here shows the percentage change in average water rates since 2013 in the BAWSCA region, while the red line shows the percentage change in average household water bills over that same period. So you can see that while the rates have increased by about 72% over the past decade, the average household bills have only increased by 35%. So that's kind of a big difference there, and it reflects the fact that households are using less water. So even though the price per unit has gone up, most customers have really managed to keep their overall bills down through improved efficiency. So you'll also notice that shaded areas on the chart, those represent drought years. And during those periods, we typically see these decreases in water bills. So the key takeaway here is that while rates have risen, the households have really been able to offset much of that increase through water efficiency. So that fourth question that we wanted to answer, we wanted to see what affordability-related practices are already in place within the BAWSCA region. And so alongside that quantitative analysis, the Strategy 2050 team also wanted to really understand how agencies across the BAWSCA region are currently addressing affordability and through their own programs and practices. So doing that, we conducted a survey and we sent it out to the BAWSCA agencies to get kind of a clearer picture of the types of programs that we have in place and the challenges that most agencies face with that. So the key findings here is the most common affordability programs were payment and forgiveness plans. We see that about 29% of our agencies provide that. And the flexible payment options. So that's, extending due dates and adjusting billing schedules, which 26 agencies offer to their customers. But one of the most consistent challenges that we saw in the survey and the comments was the challenge of Prop 218. So that really limits how rates can be structured, and that makes it difficult for agencies to design affordability programs that provide direct rate relief. So something we're further looking into. One part of Strategy 2050 is also looking outside the BAWSCA region to see if there are other programs that other agencies have used, and we can discuss it at probably a future WMR meeting. So the key takeaways, this is the last slide for me to just wrap up some of the work that we've been doing. I want to highlight that that water bill, so those water bills in the BAWSCA region really appear to be broadly affordable, both at the typical single family, at the median level, as well as on the 20th percentile level of households. So most of them are paying less than that, 2.5%, and a small portion is still paying 2.5% or more for their water bill, and we want to still take a note of that when we're thinking of these affordability programs moving forward. And when we look at long-term trends, household income has generally risen faster than water costs, which means that on average, water has become slightly more affordable over time, and water bills have increased more slowly than water rates, largely because customers are using water more efficiently. So looking at ahead, what we're going to be using this with, again, this is a snapshot of what affordability looks like at the moment. In the weeks to come, we're going to have a One Water roundtable. We're going to have stakeholders coming in to discuss some of these projects and actions. And we're going to see in the future, and we'll be presenting it to you next year in 2026. But once we look at what the costs might be for some of these projects and actions in the future, and we have a portfolio of them, we can evaluate how it impacts affordability in the future. So this is, again, the starting point of how we're going to be using this. And, we were kind of interested in seeing what it looks like now and what it would potentially look like in the future. So that concludes my update on Strategy 2050. Thank you.
Okay, questions from the board or comments? Director Stevenson.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and the analysis. I'm curious, are the two slides on 32 and 33 U.S.-wide Bureau of Statistics, or are those BAWSCA region solely?
Those are the Bay Area specific.
Okay. And did we do any comparison of the water rates for non-BAWSCA agencies that are in the Bay Area?
I did not know. No, we did not.
Okay. And in terms of the water rates versus water bills, isn't that a conscious decision on each agency, decide whether or not to increase rates to recapture, because the commitment overall to the PUC or the SFPUC and what we've agreed to? So oftentimes if it's, say, $1 million that we're guaranteeing that
Right.
we're going to use, but water conservation brings us to 700,000, it's an agency decision as to whether or not we pass on the increased rate or not. So that's the I just want to make sure I'm understanding that slide well enough.
Yes, the blue one is that the water rates, that's the average water rates set by the agencies.
Okay, and that's the lower line, correct? Or is that the one?
The blue line, sorry, the blue line
is the rate.
The red line is the actual water bill that's dependent on how much water is being used. So the amount of water that's being used by an average customer, yeah.
But if the total has to equal what the agency is committed to, then the agencies are eating a portion of the margin that you basically, they're not passing it on to the consumer.
Director Stevenson, I would suggest, I would agree with you. It's just a question of causality.
Yeah.
So if people are conserving, there is a necessity to raise rates to cover the fixed cost of operating the agency and the utility. But on the other hand, if you raise rates, it may be that there's folks that are going to conserve as a result of raising rates. So it kind of goes back and forth both ways.
That's what I wanted to make sure I understood. So thank you for that. And I did a little, if you look at the states across the U.S., the cost of water is a wide range. And obviously that reflects delivery cost, other things, quality of water, source proximity and things. But it'd be interesting to add cost breakdown from a national average as well, just because Vermont is $18 per water bill. West Virginia, of all places, is like the highest, but California's second. And so, you know, where we're looking to be able to efficiently deliver water and maintain affordability is also a question that I think the BAWSCA should understand, because that'll help set priorities around other large capital improvements that we may need to make across the time frame. So that's it.
Okay, thank you. Director Mellinger.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Do we have a hypothesis for those families, median income or low income, who are in the burdened or potentially burdened range, as to what is driving the cost for them? Are there specific interventions that we can make, for instance, like leak detection? You know, obviously, when you're looking at the very bottom of the spectrum, it's just the flat cost compared to income. But even as high as 20%, or even as low as 20% of area median income, I would expect that it has more to do with consumption based on these numbers than with overall cost. Are there interventions we can be making for, let's say, for households that are using unusually large amounts of water? Just to give some perspective on this, I ran the numbers on Sunnyvale's median income is $190,000 per year. So for water to be potentially unaffordable, and we charge $5.61 per 100 cubic centimeter or cubic CCF, which is 748 gallons. So for a median income Sunnyvale family to be burdened by their water costs, they have to be using 18.6 times our average per capita daily use. Even a family of four, you're still talking 4.5 times the daily use. How do we intervene in these cases? Are there tools that we can be using to help families who are in this sort of unusually large water use reduce?
That's a good question. I mean, we do have our conservation programs. We have a list of them, and they, most of them are targeted for the lower income households. But I think there are other programs regarding the affordability programs that we could look into, and that's part of the Strategy 2050 work we'll be doing in the next year.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, the advanced, I know that we're looking at advanced water metering. Is this something that, you know, with advanced water metering we'll be able to do, I guess you'd call it outlier detection?
Yes, you can definitely, and that's like in real time, right? You're able to detect when there is a leak. And there are many of the rebates that we have, like with Water Smart, that kind of can give you that information, right? And that it comes at like a lower price as we have rebates for that. So it's more affordable for households.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Hamilton.
First of all, to that last point, what we do in San Bruno is, as part of our affordability-related practices, and we do both of the ones that are mentioned here, about payment plans and arrearage forgiveness and all that kind of stuff. But when we're working with those households and those families, we do reach out to them and we look at their water usage and look for those outlying situations and try to educate at the same time. So it's not just about trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills, but how to figure out if their bills are artificially too high or can be lowered. My comment is just I don't have any questions, but I just have comments. I'm very pleased that we're doing this work. It's so important, and it's really helpful for us to have this data for us. I can't tell you the number of people who wonder why when it rains a lot their water bill doesn't go down. I mean, it's just it's just a constant struggle. So to being able to have data like this to help back that up is really important, and I especially like that we're doing this, that we've done this now, so that we can apply this lens to the investments that we're potentially going to make as part of Strategy 2050. So we make sure that we don't upset this balance with the work that we do. So I just want to say thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Snyder.
Director Snyder.
Yours was first.
We'll get to everybody.
If you read the notes, you'll notice I'm the one that does not like averaging. It always makes me uncomfortable. I come from a community that is one of the lowest water users. So when you say that a water bill has gone down, that it's through efficiency, yeah, but in my community, sadly, it is through not watering their landscaping. And this is why when we had the policy meeting, I said that there's a difference between a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom. Let's say a 3-bedroom housing unit that has landscaping. I'm thinking that it's different if the landlord picks up the cost or if the tenant picks up the cost. And I'm basing this on the fact that I have a townhome in Mountain View where I pick up half the cost and the tenant picks up the other half. Front yard I cover, backyard personal use. What happens? The backyard plants die on that. And what I've seen in my community is that we had a very high increase of plastic grass. We did have 2 people drown. Hardscapes add to flooding. So again, when we silo ourselves and we only look at the cost of water, we're forgetting the things that are coming in addition to that. As our landscapes dry out, as the soil structure changes, makes our communities more susceptible to flooding because water can't absorb as well. It also means, and one of the first things that new people who move into Millbrae, but I don't have hard data, we're not monitoring it, but I'll go back and say we should. One of the first things they do is cut down their trees. Well, half of my community is now at high heat wave risk. So as we deal with these new climate change things, simply saying that we're reducing and keeping water affordable through efficiency, I think may be a fallacy. It may mean something definitely if you're in a townhome with no landscaping, but it might mean something else entirely if you're in a house that has landscaping around it. And then you throw on the fact that a lot of us, or many of us, are in a fire risk area. That is my fear, that we've made water, and for us it's $13.13 going on to $13.52 for 752 gallons on that. And that price point for a lot of my population is way too expensive. And then it'll come back to the city, who will have to go out and then basically code enforce all of these properties for blight. I'm going through my old notes as an elected and finding we don't talk a lot at local government about blight. I bet that our blight is a little bit worse than the blight in Hillsborough on that, and that's a socioeconomic factor. So I think my request from this long diatribe is when the slide down here where it says takeaways, I read due to increased efficiency, and I'm going to call bull on that. At least it doesn't mean anything to my community. And I think we need to dive deeper down on that because we're simply moving the costs in other directions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Stone.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. Appreciate the study and in particular our increased focus on affordability. I know all of our constituents really care about this matter. And I think this data point is fascinating. It's great to be able to see that the average percentage of monthly household expenses have gone down, but I think ultimately I look at this data with such a steep increase in water rates over the past 10 years as really our failure, but the more modest increase in water bills really being the success of our constituents, and so of their ability to be able to conserve. And that's why I look at this and I feel like in a way we're celebrating a success that is not our own, and so this really concerns me about this steep increase. And even though I might not be as concerned about today's water bill itself, I am, because of the great success of our constituents, I am incredibly concerned, especially about increases in those water rates over the next 10 years, which will automatically drag the water bill up. And I think most of that concern over the next 10 years really based on significant changes we're likely going to see in alternative water supplies, large capital projects really being furthered by the SFPUC, and just overall reduced demand on the regional water system, which is going to drive prices up for all of our agencies. And one current case study that really just keeps me up at night is what we're seeing happening in San Diego. I think they just announced at the end of October a 31% increase in water rates over the next 2 years. And I understand that most of those increases seem to be coming in large part due to years of lack of coordination between San Diego and the San Diego County Water Authority by both building up their alternative water supplies. And so I think a big concern I have is to the extent that BAWSCA agencies we're developing our own alternative water supplies. We're seeing San Francisco investing in their own, I think, kind of water purification plant or something, some other type of alternative supply as well. I mean, all of that work, while great, we all need to be doing these investments. We also need to be aware that that is going to then further decrease demand on our regional water system, ultimately raising rates and our bills as well, especially if SFPUC too continues on this push for significant capital investments over the next 10 years. So I'm glad we're having these conversations. I know we're going to be diving deeper into strategies early next year. So I do hope kind of staff maybe can come back with a real analysis of what's happening in San Diego, how do we prevent similar mistakes, better understanding of what our individual agencies are doing so we can have that greater coordination so we don't fall into that same the same mistakes that it appears that they are making. And I would like to just kind of further look into as well what are some alternative strategies. I thought the report was definitely lacking on what we are doing. I'd like to see what kind of capital projects can be delayed, improving individual agency demand forecasting. I think that's still something that we really need to see is a revisit on our demand. So I'll stop there, but again, appreciate the work. I just think we got a long ways to go.
Okay, thank you. Director Manalo.
Well, I definitely agree that this study is necessary as we look at forecasting and really looking at the affordability piece of it in that respect. But also, obviously, our own individual agencies, looking at our own communities, like what can we do when there is going to be a population of individuals, like our older adult population, who have a fixed income and won't have that extra amount of dollars to move with these increases, right? And so what we've been able to do in Daly City is, say we have an increase or with our district, there are individuals that could apply under a certain area median income so that they wouldn't get the next rate increase. We just have, we put that not only on our water rates, but other utilities. But that's something I wanted to share with each and every one of you, because we do know that there's going to be that population that will have that fixed income and only rely on what they have. And so I wanted to offer that to each and every one of you. We call it the Utility Rate Assistance Program, URAP. And so, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Andrews, followed by Director Jordan.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I wanted to talk about outreach efforts as part of this strategy just a little bit, because when I heard 190,000 median income, I almost coughed, because we are literally half of that in my community, yet we are reducing our water usage by 30%. And if you're wondering why we're the last city to approve, that's why. So wanted to know if we are doing anything in outreach, in particular communities with the lower incomes, like we see with other utilities or services, so we can reduce our impact. Because the rates, it may sound small, but it's death by 1,000 cuts. We have to raise our sewer rates. We went to renewable energy. Now we're getting water rates. So just wanted to see if, I know we're looking at this as agency-wide, but we have the lower incomes in my community. So what are we going to do as part of Strategy 2050 that can tell my community, yes, we're raising our water and this is what you're getting for it? Because we're getting brown lawns 30%, even if we're reducing our water usage. We have brown lawns. We are at more risk, fire risk, because we have these brown lawns, and we're just not seeing any benefit right now. And just wanted to see if Strategy 2050 can help us.
It is. That's part of it. I think when we had the list, we've already generated a list of potential projects and actions. We have that on the side. We wanted to look at the affordability piece. We also are looking at comparative metrics, where we're comparing different things that we can look at these projects and actions and compare them. And within that, we have outreach material and ways in which we can really push our conservation programs and then add on to them as well. So that is one of the potential projects and actions that we are.
Is there any way we can also look at more rebate programs? Are there any foundations out there that would be able to help us with folks needing assistance to pay their water bill in addition to our cities? Because our city budget cannot handle a utility rebate program. We have some hardship programs, but just wanted to see if there's other foundations that we're looking at for that as well.
I know that part of Strategy 2050 is also, we're looking at the other affordability programs in other, outside the BAWSCA region. We're not necessarily going to be implementing it. I mean, we are going to be discussing it, but it's something that we will be presenting to the WMR in early next year.
But Director Andrews, there is a segment, and I'm looking at Andre to nod. There is a segment of the strategy project that is looking at other funding sources as well.
Okay, great.
And so I don't know that we've thought about applying it in that way, but certainly that is an option and something that we could consider as we go through this process.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Jordan, followed by Director Nash.
Thank you, Chair. In our district, we've initially depended upon tiered rates to help reduce the usage. Our
highest tier is $19.97 per CCF. So it's, 4 or 5 times as expensive as you use more water. But we also, starting in 2014, put in AMI. And so we, if we have a really egregious user, we catch them. I mean, the data might be there in one day. We usually call them within 2 days and say what's going on. And that would be if it's a leak, because it's a lot of water, and we try to, they don't want to pay for that. And they don't want to wait till the bill comes, they'd like to know sooner. So that investment early in AMI came just in time for the first big drought in the last 10 years, so it helped for that. But that's a little bit of spending. It wasn't much, I think has really paid off for reducing usage. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Nash, followed by Director Showalter.
Thank you. So this data was collected for single-family residential use. How does it apply for multifamily users?
Yes, we didn't have the information for the multifamily. We wanted to, but that information is not available specifically in the census block level.
So is that
in
the
addition to
basic
that,
needs then?
Well, in addition to that, what I would add is that most water utilities, agencies, and cities don't serve individual apartments and units within multifamily. You're usually metering at the complex.
And so that would be considered a single family? The complex was
No, they're not
included,
considered
or?
single family, but there's no way for us to know the usage of individual units within a.
Understood.
Yeah.
So how applicable is this to multifamily users?
I think
Or can we
it's
get-
it's not.
It is not.
It is not.
So we're really talking, in this, all of this affordability, we're really talking about single-family residential users.
Yes.
Okay.
And remember, what we're trying to do is establish a benchmark so that we can apply that to potential investments that we're contemplating in the strategy project. And so I don't want to say it's not necessary, but it's important, sort of an apples and apples comparison. It may not be a real world comparison because, as you say, we might not have the data on multifamily, but at least you'll get an idea, at least for that single family customer or that type of customer, what the change might be from a portfolio of projects and actions that we might be contemplating. And that's that's why it's important to the strategy project.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, Director Showalter, followed by Director Hamilton.
Yes, I just wanted to say, first of all, I'm really glad that this has been done. One of the things I think is so wonderful about this is that you've gone into detail about what's behind the numbers so that we can understand what this, this metric really means. And that's, that's sometimes unusual. And I particularly appreciate Director Nash's comments about this is single-family use, not multifamily use. That's an important distinction. But the sort of general thing I wanted to say is what we've really seen is that our residents over time have demonstrated that they can reduce water use if they understand that they need to do it, and we tell them ways that they can do it. We should be celebrating that and the responsiveness of our communities. That's something we should be proud of, and I think we can count on it going forward. But the other thing I think going forward is that we need to be educating more people, and this is along the lines of what Director Schneider was talking about, or Director Andrews. We need to be educating people more about using water wisely. What with landscaping, watering is really valuable, and what can we lose and get back fairly quickly. I mean, for instance, it's really important during a drought that we water our trees more than we would in a normal year because they didn't get the rainfall that they were counting on. And yet, Maybe a lawn, which is something that you can grow back pretty fast if the water comes back, is something we can let go. So I think, and also in terms of resilience, when we hear about shading and cooling ourselves, and how I mean in Mountain View anyway, one of the things that people are talking about a lot is how they want to have shady streets. And we want to have trees so that when we're outside walking or riding our bikes, it's much more pleasant. So I think that going forward, another thing we're going to want to consider very much is educating people about using water wisely. And I think this understanding of affordability is just an important component of what goes behind that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Hamilton, followed by Director Snyder.
So, sorry to take a second bite of the apple, but a question came up. I was inspired by Director Stone's comments earlier. Regarding, I already said how, important this analysis is. How often are we going to do this analysis? Have we thought about that? I mean, obviously doing this every year I think would be pretty burdensome, but can we do it every other year? Can we do it every 3 years? Is something I think, as things change and as, there's all kinds of factors that are affecting all of this. I think it would be important to kind of stay on top of it and not have it be, an every 25-year type of thing.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that, but yeah, it's something that we should talk about, yeah.
I will say you'll have an opportunity, a meeting or two from now, to suggest work items for the next fiscal year, and that would be a good place to bring that up.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Snyder, followed by Director Duncan.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to a couple of things. Director Manalo, I appreciate your point on the savings. I am actually doing an independent study. I thought I'd be back as a researcher at UC, but those jobs aren't there right now. But I'm looking at individual cities' ability to pay. And there's a bunch of reasons why different cities have different abilities to pay. I will look at, most of you come from agencies that are greater than 50,000 people. Right then and there you get community development block grants, which have great flexibility in your ability to go back and do rent support or other things like that. Those of us who are smaller don't have that. And so this, coming back to the study, it's one thing to come and say, we're just looking at this for what investments BAWSCA might be making in terms of new infrastructure, and not what SFPUC might be doing, which we in turn then all pay for. So I hope that as we look at this, there might be times that we, and golly, I can't say I'm new anymore. This is the end of my 3rd year. But what say do we have to the improvements that SFPUC is making? And are there some of those that could be delayed to keep things affordable? Because some of our cities have a less ability to absorb those costs for their people. And it's going to be different based on a set of different conditions on that. When I was reading that, I think we talked a little bit about what investments we could hold off.
Make sure you talk to the mic rather than to your neighbor.
I'm trying to find the director's name. The director that mentioned, I'm sorry, Mr. Stone, thank you. About what investments we'll be making, but what other investments are we also paying for? And I think that was a really good point, that we kind of skim through at the policy level, and we should dive more into not just our investments and what might be delayed, but SFPUC. And of course, you guys know what I'm talking about, including we're again going to take a hit from a change that SFPUC is going to take, which in turn affects our ability to help our customers who are low income. Thank you.
Okay. Director Duncan, followed by Director Stevenson.
I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing. I really appreciate the work you put into this, and I think it's also important to note that the affordability is pretty good right now. It's not bad, but all of our agencies face an aging infrastructure, and we're going to have to put a tremendous amount of money into these water systems. And my recommendation is we take a look at, make sure we don't leave that out. We really need to consider that. I did a little search here. EPA says across the country we're going to need to spend $1 trillion on water systems in the next 25 years, and that's where 2050 is. So let's make sure that we look at affordability and the sustainability of that with the replacement of that infrastructure. So, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Stevenson, followed by Director Pierce.
Yeah, following Tom, doing a double bite. I think for all of our agencies, and this is picking up on Director Nash's comment, we absolutely need to have the multifamily baseline as part of this analysis for affordability. Burlingame, albeit very prospectively affluent overall, the reality is 53% of our residents are renters, and many of those are at lower income levels, well below 80% AMI. And so we just need more granularity. I echo Director Duncan's thought that this is a great start. It's the right topic, and we'll build on that. But I would think we could poll our agencies with surveys to say, give us representative samples of, 12-unit building, a 50-unit building, a 1,000-unit building, and get that information as a baseline with not too much difficulty.
Okay, thank you. Actually, Director Hardy? I think you're on mute.
Sorry, my fingers were too fat. I will just say, now maybe some of you understand why the board policy group spent so much time and now why we had 6 pages of notes. We all had these concerns. It is important. We're not going to solve it tonight. But now you understand why there were so many notes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Burrow?
Thank you, Chair. Like some of the other colleagues here tonight, I very much want to compliment and applaud staff and the consulting team for doing this work. It's really been interesting to me over the years that our mission statement has always included the words high quality water at a fair price. And those words were put in there with good intent. But fair price has a very different perspective if you're at the top quintile or if you're at the bottom quintile of median household income. So I think it's incredibly important that we've done this, and I hope we continue doing this. And that's just the one thing for Dr. Shori, I wanted to make sure I didn't understand. Are you anticipating that Strategy 2050 is going to have perhaps a suite of options that our individual member agencies could use to deal with those households who are in the lower quintile? Or is that something that I need to bring up in 2 meetings from now as an objective for next year for you and your team to do?
There's some recommendations. So it's going to be some recommendations on things that have been successful, either within the BAWSCA region or outside the BAWSCA region.
Okay, thank you. Director Pierce?
Well, it's interesting. Thank you, Nagin, for undertaking what is obviously a much more difficult task than anyone thinks about, because there are so many different levels to it and so many different factors. The benefit of listening to all of you is it reminds me of how different all of our agencies are, how different our communities are, and the needs that we have, that we're all impacted by a water system and needing to make sure that we have adequate water for our communities. Creative strategies and tools is what BAWSCA needs to give us, and each of our agencies and our water management reps need to then use and apply them to our communities, and they need to share that information. I got a little bristly, Director Stone, when you said it was our communities that saved the water and we're coasting on it, and I thought, no, actually, no, that's not accurate, because when I got on the board, our community was using all the water that we had, and we were using more than the water that we had, and we did like a 4-year process that provided an incredible suite of conservation agencies. We installed over 6,000 low-flow toilets. I mean, I think people got tired of hearing about water-saving devices, and so I think it depends on making sure that your community is aware of the programs, choosing the programs for your community, and then really working with your community to understand how they can save and what they can save. And then I think perhaps some of the newer things that we need to look at, and I'm sure, Nagin, you'll take this into consideration, is some additional programs that might be more appropriate for rental owners, because the people in the buildings can only do so much to cut their water use, but having water-efficient appliances and plumbing that works and doesn't leak, all of those things, and incentives, I think that's where we can make some progress. And I think the good thing is that this is our 2050 strategy, so those big projects, those infrastructure projects, those are the things that are going to come, that we're going to evaluate. And we're not quite there just yet, but I think this really gives us a good lens to look at, and I appreciate the work that you're doing in the discussion tonight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Oh, I see a board member down there. Lincoln.
Hi, I'm Webster
Director
Lincoln. From East Palo Alto. You know, I'm a data scientist, so I know how to do a lot of analysis and statistics and all that. But I think affordability matters the most to people on the lower end. So when we're talking about affordability, we need to really just focus on really the bottom quartile of our incomes. And those people reside in communities like East Palo Alto and other communities. So that's where I think a majority of this analysis should focus on. But that's just really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Director Montano.
Thank you, Chair. So I've been listening to all the comments, and, you know, I'm over here thinking, okay, yeah, I do appreciate everyone's comments. You know, but the bottom line is we're no matter what, even how much people conserve, you see their lawns dried up, plants dying, water is still going to go up, because that's the nature of the beast. The wholesaler is the one that sets the price. Cities are hostages. We don't have, all we can do is just try to come up with programs to help our low income. But now it's not just the low income, it's the middle class. The lower middle class are the ones that are struggling as well. It's not just low income. As I mentioned, water rates are always, as long as I've been on the city council, they've always been going up. That's just the nature of the beast. What I'd like to know is how many cities have water meters? I mean, if you can do a study on that. And then what are cities doing? I'd like to hear what other cities are doing to help their low-income folks that, you know, are having a hard time. For example, when we have a program that if folks are late on their water bill, the late fees go into a different pot. And with that pot, we subsidize some of the people that are struggling with their water bill. So, you know, I want to hear from other cities. What are other cities doing to help the residents that can't afford it? So I think I heard somebody say that they subsidize. Is it a one-time subsidy? Is it twice? So I'd like to see what other cities are doing, which cities have meters, because having a meter is really helps, because let's say somebody's toilet has a leak and they're wasting a lot of water. So with the meter program we have, I guess, I don't know how they do it, but it earmarks, it lets you know, oh, hey, you're using, and they give us a report. Every household gets sent a report of how much you're using, if you're way too high. So that's what I love about that program. So I'd like to find out more what if you can delve more into what other cities are doing, because that's what we're here. We're here to find out how to help our residents. So that's my request. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from board members? Seeing none, I have one public comment. Dave Warner.
Well, you've sure hit a chord with affordability. I think something that's coming that will complicate this yet more, and we'll wait to hear when the demand study comes out. But I think what we're learning, and we're learning this across California, is increasing demand is increasingly uncertain. And so if we're facing these affordability issues at the same time, we're going to be facing or realizing decreasing demand. That makes the affordability problem all that much worse. And you guys have described sort of, to me, the perfect storm. Possibly demand going down. We'll see what the demand study says. We also have the local infrastructure problem, which I've sure noticed that in Palo Alto, and how expensive those rates are. We have the Prop 218 problem of now we're going to have to get rid of these higher rate tiers, and that makes it even more expensive for lower cost people. So I guess where I'd go with this is, if we are going to face flat or declining demand, which I think there's a very good chance there is, this is going to make a whole sea change in terms of what our numbers are going to look like, what the financial side is going to look like. And I think it's well worth exploring and trying to understand what that exposure looks like. And I guess where I'm going with this is, I would sure encourage, particularly the chord we've heard today and the chord we've heard at the policy committee meeting, is to continue to shift the focus or provide the emphasis that CEO Smegel has led, and you guys have all led, of focusing more on affordability and maybe less on, at least for the short term, additional supplies. Because it seems like those two might be in conflict with each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This is a discussion item. Our next item, seeing no more discussion, next item is CEO reports, and our CEO will do this.
Mr. Chair, as a point of personal privilege, could I suggest a 5-minute recess?
Either now or before we do closed session. Anybody?
I would just add that we'll be brief, and then we can do that right as we go into closed session.
Let's do it after closed session.
So I just have
Okay, before closed session.
Will that work? Okay. So I just wanted to, I think everyone knows that, and in the packet, on November 5th, we had a workshop for the draft of the scientific basis report in front of the State Water Board, and a number of us were up there in person, and it was also broadcast. I just wanted to highlight in your packet, there's a YouTube video of the entire workshop, and we have time-stamped all of the sessions. So I know there's been interest from some parties in workshops about the voluntary agreements, about the healthy rivers and landscapes. This was a great workshop featuring panels by the water agencies and by NGOs, as well as a lot of really good questions from the State Board itself, from the members of the State Board. So it's very enlightening. It's about 9 hours. I don't expect anybody to sit through 9 hours of it, but we have provided the time codes in your pre-read packet if you want to find that video and go to a spot where you can see one or more of those panels or anything else that you'd like to see. Next, I would like to bring up Christina. Where's Christina? To talk a little bit about our wholesale revenue requirement.
Good evening, everyone. So BAWSCA reviews San Francisco's calculation of the annual wholesale revenue requirement every year. And tonight I'm here to report the results of the recently completed WR review. So last month, the party reached an agreement to address BAWSCA's concern as to the costs allocated to the wholesale customers in fiscal year 22-23. So BAWSCA's recent review and the prior resolution associated with fiscal year 22-23 resulted in a total savings of $3,477,285 to the wholesale customers. Within that amount, $3.3 million is reflected in the current balance in the balancing account and considered during the fiscal year 25-26 wholesale revenue, wholesale rate setting, while the remaining $105,000 will be applied to the balancing account and considered during the fiscal year 26-27 resetting. And this table summarizes all the adjustments made, since a description of each adjustment is included in the staff report. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I will just highlight a couple. The largest amount of 3.3 million is resulted from an issue resolved before 22-23. And that is related to a definition misinterpretation. So during a prior WRR review, BAWSCA found that SFPUC planned to increase the wholesale customers' proportional annual use because the minimum purchase requirement were not met by the 4 agencies during a drought when the requirement were waived. So that BAWSCA determined that would not agree with the definition of the proportional annual use or the purpose of having minimum purchase requirement. Therefore, after a series of meetings, San Francisco agreed to exclude the imputed water sale from the calculation, and that adjustments reduced what the 22-23 WRR would be by over $3.3 million. The next 92,000 credit is from the corrections, the various misclassified expenditures included in the 22-23 WRR. With all the adjustments made, the total savings to the wholesale customers for fiscal year 22-23 were over $3.4 million. That concludes my remarks.
Okay, comments from the board, Director Andrews.
Can you mention that when you come before my council, that you save $3 million as one of your cost-saving strategies?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, Director Bro.
I'm just always amazed that Christina doesn't take more credit for saving all of our customers roughly more than half of our annual operating budget. That's just an incredible number, and it's something that happens on the regular. So for the CEO and your staff and Christina's staff, thank you very much.
Okay, Director Snyder.
Yay. But as I text my city manager, what does that mean right now to us, the different districts?
So I think Christina indicated that the bulk of it is already embedded in rates. And so
Okay, I missed that.
what happened in a prior year evaluation, they discovered this policy interpretation, and it applies to drought years. 22-23 was a drought year. And so that had implications for the cost to the BAWSCA region in a drought year. And that's why we had that savings in 22-23. The other savings, the $100,000, that will lower the amount in the balancing account and will lower rates theoretically by that amount at some point in the future, depending on how the rates are set.
Every little bit helps, I guess.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Okay, I do have one comment from a private citizen, David Warner.
I think I'm the barrier between you and the break. So just one quick comment. I really appreciate all of your passion for those of you that spoke at the State Water Board meeting. As much as I may have disagreed with some of the things you say, I think it's very good that you say them. The one thing I will mention is several of you mentioned the threat of 50% rationing. And I strongly encourage you to understand for yourself the mathematics behind that idea of 50% rationing. It's highly unlikely. All the things that have to come together for that to occur. And I would, so the SFPUC, Steve might tell you one story, and I have to respect him, and we have a world-class system, but I hear both sides of it. So I'd ask you not to mention the 50% rationing until you, for your own self, have gone through the numbers yourself to understand, is that really a realistic statement or is it a misleading statement? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Our next item are closed session, so what I'd like to do is have a 5 minute break while we set up the room for closed session.
Until Director Mellinger can get back.
Okay.
So we opened closed session number 2 first, and that opened at 8:16 and concluded at 8:28, and there was no reportable action taken. And then we entered into closed session number 1 at 8:30, and it concluded at 8:43 p.m. And that was the personnel evaluation. And the board found CEO Smeagol's performance to be outstanding since he assumed the position in December 2024.
Okay, thank you. We have, let's see if there's, we don't have time for additional public comments. Director's discussion? Seeing none. Date and time of future meetings is on the attached schedule. We're going to be meeting here January 15th at 6:30. Any other comments?
Yes. Enjoy your holidays.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, and we stand adjourned. At 8:45.
Right.
Exactly.
Perfect. Good time.